Good morning, Year 5, and welcome to our penultimate day of the year. And today we're going to be studying humanism and looking at how science informs their life. So this morning you would have had an assembly in your morning briefing explaining and outlining what humanism is. So hopefully you kind of have a grasp on that. And we're going to be looking at one of their key beliefs, which is science, today in this lesson. So let's get started. Before we begin, we're just going to do a quick quiz on last term. One of the lessons we did was Hajj, which was the trip to Mecca that Muslims take. So this is your first question. You don't need to write it down, you can just simply do it in your head. So our first question is, why is pilgrimage to Mecca important for Muslims? Is it A, a chance for a break from everyday life? It is a duty for a Muslim to go to Mecca? Or C, it enables Muslims to spend time with family? So pause the video here, think about it for a few seconds, and then I will reveal the answer. Okay, so your answer is B. It is a duty for Muslims to go to Mecca as long as health and wealth allows it. Our next question. In which direction do Muslims walk around the Kaaba? Was it clockwise, anti-clockwise, or from side to side? So again, think about it for a few seconds, decide on your answer, pause the video, and then unpause when you're ready to reveal. Yes, and it's also B. So Muslims are expected to walk around the Kaaba in an anti-clockwise direction. And our final question is, why do Muslims throw stones at three pillars known as Jamrat during the Hajj? Is it A, it's a reminder for the importance of keeping fit? B, all things made of stone are evil? Or C, the pillars represent the devil? So once again, for the last time, just pause your video, think of the answer, and then press play when you're ready to see if you were correct. Yep, absolutely. C, the pillars represent the devil. That's why they throw stones at it. So that's just a quick review of the Hajj that we did last term. We're now going to go and look at humanism. So like I said, we're looking at humanism and in terms of their key beliefs and how they use science to inform their daily lives. So humanists believe that the material world is the only one they know we can exist. Science is the best method to understand the universe. Science is a huge value. They believe that it has technological and social benefits and it enriches humanity. And also there are motivations for science. They have curiosity and a psychological desire for truth. So that's some of the themes we'll be covering today as we delve into humanism and science. So a quick overview of humanism and science. Humanists believe science provides the best way to understand the world. They don't believe there is a God or believe we can't know if there is a God. So in the morning briefing we've discussed atheism and agnosticism. So that refers to that. They believe the material world is the only one we know can exist and will always look to try for natural explanations rather than supernatural ones. So what that means is they will look for evidence based on natural conclusions rather than anything to do with religion or any supernatural elements. Okay, so humanists use reason, evidence and science to determine if something is true or not. And we're going to look at these as we go throughout the lesson. So in everyday life, for everybody, we often rely on some of the following when we're believing if things are true or not. Not just for humanists, but everyone would often use this. We might use personal experience. Whether we've seen something or heard it, and then using personal experience, we might believe that something is true or not. Authority. So maybe we've read it, or maybe someone has told us, or maybe others believe it. So someone in authority might say something which makes you believe something. Faith. So religion. People believe in things based on their religion, so without need for proof, because it's their faith. Scientific evidence. So it's tested through investigation, experiment, and it's proved. So that is something that humanists really do use to believe. Also reason or logic, maybe we think carefully and form a judgment logically, and that can often lead us to believe if something is true or not. So we're going to do a quick activity thinking about those different methods for believing in things and how we can rely on them or not. So this is just a quick game and it's the first activity you're going to do and answer some questions afterwards. So a man has been murdered. Another man has been accused of the murder. You are on the jury. You will hear evidence from 8 different witnesses who believe the man accused is the murderer. So, a man has been murdered, another man has been accused of the murder. You're going to look at 8 witness statements who believe that the man is the murderer. So we're going to look at which witnesses provide good evidence or bad evidence. So witness 1 says, I had a dream that he killed him. Witness 2 says, my friend's mother's hairdresser's uncle said he did it. Witness 3, I read that he killed him in the newspaper. Witness 4, everyone thinks he did it. Witness 5, I just know how he did it. Witness 6 says, his fingerprints match those on the murder weapon. Witness 7, I know he had a motive to kill him. Motive means a reason. Witness 8, I saw him do it. So keeping those witness statements in mind, this is on the right hand side here, you're going to answer the following 3 questions. So overall, do you think the evidence is good evidence or not? Okay, and explain why. So maybe you can say some of them are good, some not so good, and explain why you think that. Number 2, could anything be wrong with the evidence? And number 3, can you order the evidence from best to worst? So you can either list them 1 to 8 and their numbers next to them, or you could make a diamond 8 based on how many diamond 9s we've done this year. So that's up to you. But the first activity now is to look at these witness statements again and answer the following 3 questions, thinking about when we believe things in life, how reliable are our sources or how reliable are our thoughts. So 3 questions, and you can just write them down on a slip of paper ready to post on Seesaw later on. So pause the video here, reread the witness statements and complete the 3 questions. Okay, so that was just to get your mind thinking about reasons for believing things and the different reasons people have for believing things. So often we might ask ourselves, can our beliefs be mistaken, or can we be wrong about what we think is true or not? So here are the same 5 reasons for believing things once again. I'm going to look at, can these beliefs be mistaken, or are they always reliable? So the first one, personal experience, is when we see something or hear it. So often it could be an illusion. So an illusion means you may think you have seen it, or hallucination might mean you think you have seen it, or you think you have heard it, but you can't be sure. But then you believe it because you think you heard or saw it. One example might not apply to all cases. For example, the fact that you saw 1 stone fall to the ground does not mean they all will. So if you see something once, does that really mean it will always be the case? Maybe, but maybe not also. So it's about just challenging your belief system and your reasons for believing things. That is what humanists do. So the second one is authority. So authority would be someone that is maybe older than you or in charge of you. So it's something that you've read or someone told you, or that others believe it makes you believe it. So sometimes people might lie or might be biased. We've used that word a lot in history, that something is bias. Maybe there's a miscommunication, maybe you don't understand what the person has said or meant, or maybe they have not been clear either. Often people could be mistaken. So maybe you have heard something from someone in authority who has had a personal experience, but their personal experience actually didn't lead it to be the truth, which meant they told you, which means that it was mistaken. It is also possible for even many more people to be wrong about it, even, for example, the belief the sun went around the earth, when in fact the earth orbits the sun. So we should be careful, like humanists say, about our reasons for believing things. So we've looked at personal experience and how that is challenged, and how authority can also be challenged. Number 3 is faith. So, like I said, faith is believing something without the need for proof, based maybe on religious meaning. So, what if different people claim to have different faith in something else? So, one religion might say one thing, another religion might challenge that. Also, wanting something to be true is not the same as it being true. That's what humanism says. So if you want something to be true, does that really mean it is true? Humanists would challenge that. Okay, the penultimate one, scientific evidence. So this lesson is based on science and how humanists use science to help them inform their beliefs. So Was it a good test? That means, was it a good experiment? Was the test fair? We've talked about fair tests this year. So if it's a good test, maybe it helps you to believe something, but you need to think, was the test good before you believe it? Was there too small a sample size? So a sample size means the amount of items or people that were experimented on. So the more the better, as it gives you a more accurate representation. So if it's too small, maybe you can't believe that. And was the test not repeated to check the conclusion? So this is all things that humanists would challenge. The test would need to be repeated to make sure the first conclusion was correct. And the final one is reason and logic. So logic and reason is thinking carefully and forming a judgment logically. So like in maths, we reason, we logically think about our answer before writing something down, and we give explanation. So there could be flaws in your background knowledge. So maybe you didn't fully, or maybe you didn't realize you didn't understand fully what you were saying, and therefore maybe your reason and logic could be slightly skewed. Also rationalizing to try to prove what you want to prove. So that's quite similar to if you want something to be true, it's not the same as it being true. If you're just rationalizing to prove what you want to prove, are you really proving that it's true? So these are 5 reasons for believing things that people have all around the world, and humanists would challenge them in different ways to ensure they use science to come out with the real truth. So humanists use this, and they use also 8 other ways to decide what to believe. They use reason and evidence, which is essentially science. They won't rely on faith, revelation, or tradition. So something's a tradition, or faith or revelation, where it's linked to religion. They won't believe in that, they won't rely on it. They try to use reason and evidence all the time. They don't think authority should go unquestioned. So maybe things the government say, things parents say, things people in positions of power say. They don't believe that that should go unquestioned. They don't believe that you can just accept what these people say. You need to question and challenge them to get the real truth. Here is a tricky word, empiricism. So the importance of our senses. So how we feel and using our senses to gain knowledge of the world around us. They also have 4 more. They are skeptical. That means they don't immediately trust everything they hear. They don't believe in anything supernatural. So some people might believe in ghosts or claim they've seen ghosts. Humanists would not believe this without actual reason, evidence, and scientific proof. They are prepared to change their beliefs in light of new evidence. This is an important point. Yes, humanists believe in challenging science, challenging authority, and so on, but whatever view they have, they are prepared to change their belief in light of new evidence. So science is all based on evidence, and if they see new evidence, they will be prepared to change their belief system. They accept we can't test every single claim ourselves and have to trust others, but believe we should always think carefully about what we are told and whether we can check it. So humanists would acknowledge that we can't claim and test absolutely everything, and that it is important to trust others, but that we do need to think carefully about what we are told, whether we can check it before we believe it as truth. So, using reason, evidence, and science. Humanists believe that the best way to find out about life and how it began is to be like detectives. So that's probably the most easy comparison to make. If you're using reason, evidence, and science, you're going to work like a detective to believe if something is true. They will consider the evidence by looking, listening, measuring, then coming up with a conclusion which explains what you found. If anything new is found that doesn't fit what you found, then you should change what you think. And that goes along with the system of them being able to change their beliefs in light of new evidence. Humanists also believe that science is the best method to understand the universe, and this stems from the idea of the Big Bang being how the universe was created, as opposed to any religious method of creation. So we know that some religions believe that the universe was created as a religious meaning, but also humanists would challenge that and say the idea of the Big Bang and have a scientific meaning behind how the universe was created. So at this point, you can pause the video and watch the link to the YouTube video that is in your home learning. Then you can unpause and we will read an extract together about the Big Bang and how it links in with humanism. So, I hope you watched the video at this point about the Big Bang, and we're now going to just read a little about it. Okay. So, life. How did it all begin? Humanists believe the way to find out such things is to be like detectives, considering the evidence by looking, listening and measuring, coming up with conclusions to explain what we found, and if something new doesn't fit, changing the way we think. So, the Big Bang. In 1929, the astronomer Edwin Hubble discovered that the universe is expanding. All the stars and galaxies are moving away from each other. So many scientists now agree that the universe started from some kind of tiny fireball which exploded about 14,000 million years ago. This is called the Big Bang. So in 1929, one scientist discovered that the universe was expanding, which led many scientists to believe that it was created by one tiny fireball which exploded 14,000 million years ago, leading to the creation of the universe. So what caused the Big Bang? Scientists say we don't know yet, and until we have some evidence, it's okay to stick with what we don't know. People also often ask what was there before the Big Bang. But for scientists, this is a non-question for now, simply because they don't know. Time as we know it doesn't exist in the first moments. The standard laws of physics did not apply, and there is no evidence. So we have to wait for further research. One tiny part of the universe where we live is what we call Earth. Millions of years after the Big Bang, our Milky Way galaxy formed, and eventually about 4,600 million years ago, our solar system, including the Sun and Earth, was born. As Earth cooled down, it formed layers, some molten and some solid. Heat flows upwards in streams from the Earth. When these streams of heat reach the deeper crust, patches of crust sometimes melt, and this comes to the surface, and we see it as lava when volcanoes erupt. By about 3,800 million years ago, the Earth had its crust, it had seas, but the air or atmosphere was full of carbon dioxide and other gases and not much oxygen. From about 3,500 million years ago, we find the earliest fossil evidence of life. These are single cells held together in long lines like beads on a string. So there's evidence of fossils of evidence of life from 3,500 million years ago. So fossils, you'll be discovering them in year 6. Sorry, I did not move that down in time. Other kinds of evidence, however, suggest that their life started in separate bacteria, like cells at least, 500 million years earlier than that. So there's evidence of life on Earth 3,500 million years ago through fossils, but at that point there was too much carbon dioxide and not enough oxygen for people to be able to live there. So here is a quote from Albert Einstein, the famous theoretical physicist and philosopher. He developed an interest in the general theory of relativity, and he says, "I do not believe in a personal God. If something is in me which can be called religious, then it is the unbounded admiration for the structure of the world so far as our science can reveal it." So he doesn't believe in a God, and if there's anything religious in him, it's totally relying on science and how that can prove it. So another man who is very important in science is Charles Darwin. We're just going to read a quick bit about him. In 1871, Charles Darwin wondered if life started in a warm little pond, rich in the ingredients of which life is made. Early in the 20th century, another scientist, Alexander Oparin, coined the term primeval soup. Primeval meaning from the beginning of time. In the Earth's crust and atmosphere, there existed all that you could find in living creatures. What was needed for life was the right conditions, not too hot or too cold, not too bright, not too dark, enough amounts of the right gases, and something for living things to feed off. By around 3,000 million years ago, some new kinds of early organisms appeared that pumped out oxygen, and this changed our atmosphere forever. From 1,500 million years ago, some organisms as a living thing, started to become more complex. People who study fossils find evidence from around 800 million years ago of living things that look like jellyfish and sponges. Then about 540 million years ago, there was a huge increase in the numbers of worm-like animals and creatures with hard outsides. So we can see how animals and organisms and living things developed over time. And evolution and Charles Darwin is going to be a science topic in the autumn term for you in Year 6. So in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, a number of scientists who study living animals, plants and fossils thought that the evidence suggested that that things came about through evolution. So evolution is things evolve over time. Later in the mid-19th century, Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace proposed a theory of evolution by natural selection for all plants and animals, including we humans. Most humanists accept this too. So that means that animals and living things evolved over time through natural selection, so survival of the fittest, the ones that were stronger survived and their offspring were born, leading to those also surviving. So the Big Bang theory of evolution would be two things that humanists would also believe in, purely because it's based on science, more so than religious or supernatural beliefs. So you should now understand the Big Bang based on that reading and also the video that was connected to your home learning. So we are now going to do this together. I'm going to do the first one, we're going to do the second one together, then you're going to try the third one on your own. This is all oral, we're all just doing it in our heads or speaking out loud. So we now know how a humanist challenges things, how they create a belief system, and whether they believe something is true or not. So we're going to look at 3 statements and what a humanist might say in response to these. So one statement is, I believe in the Loch Ness Monster because I read about it in a book. Now, if I get back up my chart of reasons for believing things, we can have it alongside us here. So, I believe in the Loch Ness Monster because I read about it in a book. So that relates to authority, that you read something. So a humanist might say that maybe the author believed it, or maybe it was based on tradition, as it's a myth. The Loch Ness Monster is a myth, and that you read it in a book, so that it cannot be fully relied on because you should be challenging authority. So they won't say it's not true without challenging it, but you need to be able to work it out in your head and create systems to challenge it. So that's what a humanist might say to that statement. The second statement is, I believe if you eat marmalade, your hair will go curly because I really want it to be true. So think for a moment about what a humanist might say to that, about really wanting something to be true. Does that really make it true? Okay, so a humanist might say that your hair will go curly because I really want it to be true is incorrect, because wanting something to be true does not make it true. You would need evidence, you would need science, you would need testing, and testing of conclusions to be able to see if that was true. So I've done this one, we thought about this one together. The last one I want you to do it yourself. So the statement is, I believe the number 13 is unlucky because lots of people believe it. So think about that statement, have this beside you, pause the video, and then see how a humanist would respond to that. Okay, so we've looked at how humanists would respond to different statements, and in a moment I'm going to set you up with your last task. Quickly, we're just going to look once more at how science relates to humanism and the other benefits it has, or that they believe it has in life. So humanists also believe that science has huge value in terms of social and technological benefits. Social science helps to improve people's everyday lives through examining how we interact with another. So science and social science offers opportunities for scientists to look at how people interact with one another and how we can improve that for everyone's daily life to be improved. It also has technological benefits, according to humanism, or that's what humanists believe, in terms of using technology to help the wider world become a better place, for example in medicine, education, business, and many other sectors. Technology offers ease of access to information, it saves people time, you can move around with it easily, you can communicate better, it saves on money ultimately. Innovation, that means things are created using technology. Banking can be used better, and people can learn better through technology. So it has social and technological benefits. So your second activity is going to be to look at these statements that are made, and you are going to write down how a humanist would respond to them. So we've now looked together what humanists believe and what factors inform what they do and do not believe. We've done an I, we, you on 3 statements. I did one, how a humanist would respond. We did one together and you did one. Now you're just going to write down answers to these 3 statements. So your task is to write what you think a humanist would respond to these. So we've already done it orally. So now you just need to write down your answers. So I did this one. So if you can think back to what I said. We did this one together. And this one is for you to come up with a response. So that is attached in your home learning. If you finish that, there's this extension where there's a blank room for a statement and a response and 3 of them. So to extend your learning, you can come up with a statement very similar to these ones, and then how would a humanist respond to your statements? So thinking about reasons for believing things and how they are challenged through science and humanism. So that was our final lesson on RE this year and belief systems. I hope you enjoyed it. You have been incredibly engaged throughout all our RE days. So I really hope that you can produce some good work today and upload it to Seesaw for the penultimate day of year 5. Well done, and I will discuss this with you in your briefings. See you later. Bye.